Yes, the purgatory continues, I'm afraid, this wretched season, mainly due to the behind closed doors nature of it, shows no sign of abating for Derby County, but just think it'll all be over in 2 weeks' time. And you can either breathe a monumental sigh of relief or contemplate relegation and the repercussions it brings. Evening from Chris Coles. I hope all things outside of football are well. But I'm never quite sure if this hour acts as a therapeutic session to get things off your chest or it plunges you further into the doldrums. Don't answer that, actually, thinking about it. I know it's called the Moan-In for a reason, but do, please, get in touch. This is very much your hour. If you want your say, now is the time to say it. Whatever you want to say and whatever your opinion is. Former Rams goalkeeper Eric Steele back with us again on a Monday night. Eric, hello.
Good evening, Chris. I am hoping for constructive, not destructive. And to quote Line of Duty, there will be definitely no comment from you and I tonight. We will be plenty of answers, plenty of questions as well for anybody who wants to ring in.
Yeah, for the benefit of the tape, Eric Steele is at home, but he is with us because it has been a while, Eric. What, you've missed the last 2 or 3 talk-ins, I suspect. Have you missed it?
I've left 3 because of, obviously I wasn't able to attend the games, Norwich, Blackburn, Preston, because of operation I had to have. However, the operation's gone on, and now I'm back. And then obviously we're going to make arrangements that I'll be there in some way or form for Saturday.
Yes.
And definitely there for Chef Wed.
Which could be a relegation playoff final, couldn't it? Perish the thought. So we shall see what transpires. I also hope you've brought your tin hat with you. I sense it could be one of those hours.
Not a problem. I think in the end, for us to actually still be in the actual hunt with realism and hope is unbelievable. But I think it just sums up, Chris, the championship this year. I've played in it, I've coached in it, and then I've obviously come back and worked with yourselves and Ed and Gareth. And I have to say, this has got to be the worst championship I've seen. The quality, how much of that is down to the fans, and unfortunately, Derby have had to fall into that. So the level and the quality just has not been anywhere near what we've seen in the last 2-3 years. Hence the reason why Watford and Norwich have just romped their way back up to Premier League. Yeah,
and Bournemouth could easily join them in the playoffs, and then it would be the 3 teams down, 3 teams straight back up. So do give us a call. 0800 145 6161 81333 is the text number. And in all seriousness, and to be fair, 99.9% of the time it is absolutely fine. But there is still a lot of anger out there, which is understandable. But at times it can spill over into, well, quite frankly, unacceptable vitriolic language, especially on Facebook after Saturday's game. Now, we don't want to stop streaming the programme, so by all means, debate, disagree, challenge, chat, whatever it is, all fine, just done in a civil manner, so we don't get any angry messages from Mark Zuckerberg. That's all we ask. But I totally accept the feeling out there, and everyone's getting it in the neck at the moment. The owner, the manager, the players, the media, the EFL, the referees. It comes with the territory when a football club finds itself in this position. And Eric, there's no doubting Derby County are a club facing a huge couple of weeks on the field. We've got Nathan and Jerry to speak to in a moment. We've got a couple of your messages, early messages, to get to as well. But just set the scene for us, Eric, because Saturday, understandably, there was huge disappointment for 2 reasons. 1, the performance in the second half. And 2, what a win would have done for Derby, given that all of the bottom 5 lost. Rotherham losing, Sheffield Wednesday losing, and Wycombe losing, which all but relegates them. They're mathematically still okay, or at least can be safe, but they'd need an almighty goal difference swing in their favour. So Wycombe all but down. And I think that was what was the most galling aspect of it, knowing that other teams are failing, and Derby had a wonderful chance with 45 minutes to put themselves all but safe.
And that'll be the frustration of the fans that have watched it or listened, is that it's just that's probably sums up Derby's season. We cannot you will be struggling to find a game this year, and I haven't missed that many now, that you would say we've really put 90 minutes together. Some of the home performances, probably. Huddersfield at home, Middlesbrough at home, Bristol City at home. But other than that, that is really the story of Derby County's season. First half, not really in control because there was nothing in the game, Chris. It was horrible. It was scrappy. Birmingham played. They've got 2-3 ways of playing, and the way they played, it was very much get the ball forward, get it into our territory, the long throw, which we'll come on to. But then they had better options than Derby, and they changed the game. Boyer literally said at half-time, no, I'm going to change the shape, and he went to a diamond, And he brought on 3 players who would keep the ball. And that was the transformation. Derby all of a sudden started quite well. We had the shot from Kazim. But after that, there was a 20-minute spell where we just couldn't get the ball. And in answer to that, we didn't have the right answer. We didn't have anywhere near the experience. And that's been the story of our last 6-7 games. We've had the side that started, but we haven't had enough depth. And that, for me, has been the story of the season. And it showed through on Saturday. I'm going to disagree with Wayne. I don't believe Marshall should have been left out. I wouldn't have brought Shinnie off. I wouldn't have brought Kazim off. I think other players weren't contributing. You need to keep that spine of the team. And Shinnie is still, I don't know why Shinnie gets brought off and then we'll put 2 young kids on, Bird and Sibley. We'll leave Waghorn on, who virtually done nothing. At least Kazim got us the goal and looked like threatening. So there was a lot of mistakes made, but ultimately in the end we weren't good enough.
And that's the bottom line. That's been the bottom line for most of the season, which is why Derby are where they are, to roll out the old cliche. Table doesn't lie. OK, let's start with Nathan this evening. Nathan, hello to you.
Hi, good evening again, guys. I called back in November, but
okay.
Remember.
What was your feeling? Was your feeling more positive than it was now?
I think we had 6 points then, or something like that. And I didn't think we were going to. The reason I never ever called these shows or anything in my life. 40 years when I was watching Derby. It was the anniversary when I called last time, November the 30th. But I just felt, well, that didn't feel to me like it was a relegation team, at the time. And it's just, I think, we are where we are now. And I think it's a lot of factors, but the big factors are we've not got the right amount of forwards in. We don't have the right midfield players for Championship. We're not big enough. We're not strong enough. We're not powerful enough. We've got some great players. And I said that back then. We are. They're technically some gifted players, but it's not effective for this level. And you watch that, we talk about getting angry. I live in a place called Budley Salford in Devon, and they must all have heard me because I'm literally screaming at the computer because I can see it's going to happen. I know exactly what's going to happen, and we're going to lose this game because every time they got the space on the right, a cross is going to come in, and they're not marked. We all season we've had this. It's gone on all season, but we are where we are. And all this anger against Wayne Rooney, I don't think he's done a lot wrong. He's come in, he's took the first 6-8 games were great. He was going, oh yeah, what a great tactician he is, and he makes the right decisions. And then suddenly we get some more injuries. How many bad cards has that guy been dealt? It's like he's playing Texas Hold'em, and he keeps picking up a pair of 2s, or worse one would be a pair of 10s because you're going to get beat. You pick that hand up. You think you can go with it, you're going to get beat, and that's what's been happening. We've got no, Colin's gone downhill a little bit because he's 35. He's been carrying the load for how many games, and his level's dropped a little bit. Or opposition know what game we're playing, and we know how to mark him out the game, so he's not getting enough service because he's not getting in the space. So there's all these things going wrong, but we are where we are. I remember getting, it looks like we may be lucky enough that there's 4 teams that deserve to get relegated this season. We're one of them, and we just might be lucky enough that that Sheffield has lost those 6 points, because if they finish within 6 points of us, we deserve to go down, not them, because we're as bad as they are for the money thing and all that kind of thing going on, in my view. So I'm just hoping. I remember, playing Fulham the season before we got relegated. We don't get many games as Derby fans where it comes down to the wire. We're either that bad we get relegated 4 or 5 games before. We don't seem to get those last day. I do remember one against Fulham because I was one of the fans on the pitch. On the touchline, and the Fulham player was going down and he was jumping over our feet, that kind of thing. He was sticking our legs out.
Well, Derby have been involved in quite a few.
I was only 15 at the time.
Yeah, well, Derby have been involved in quite a few
squeaky bum time. That's the way it seems.
No stopping him.
Sorry, I'm going on and on because I'm very passionate about Derby. I have been all my life, as you can probably feel. And I just want everyone to go, look, we are where we are. There's worse things that happen at sea. If we get relegated, we had a great time, being a big fish in a small pond. The beer's going to taste the same before the game. Your pre-match ritual's going to be the same. We're still going to sing, Steve Boomer's watching. And hopefully, because Derby fans are loyal, there'll be over 20,000 in there every week. So, let's look at the positives rather than always negativity all the time.
Nathan,
now.
Can I ask Nathan a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Eric Steele. Nathan, Do you not think now your message there is the one that I want to try and preach to all the fans who are doubting this and doubting that? This is not the time for me to start having the recriminations of what was wrong, what was right. Is this not the time to say we've got to get behind Wayne Rooney and the players and give them the best support we can, because we've got a chance to stay up? So I think it's a chance that we should be saying, let's get behind him and the team. Nothing's going to change. We can't bring players in. You can't bring a manager in. Can we now say, right, let's get behind them? And I think then we've still got a fighting chance. Would you agree, Nathan?
Absolutely. I believe that, because it's the negativity. So, I was so negative on Saturday. My boys were like running a mile. They know what's coming. They ran off because they know when this sort of was happening. I was like, but it doesn't do us any good. But the thing is, the frustrating thing is, if this wasn't lockdown, COVID, I mean, if this was a normal season, we would not be where we are now, because, at Pride Park, we'd have got enough points, and it wouldn't have been a great season. We'd have had all the recriminations about not being great, we're not going in the right direction. We would have done, because the team isn't right, and it's the results of changing the managers, and there's no strategy, because we've got the wrong type of players for the Championship. We had this thing called the Derby Way. It was great when Steve McClaren, 6 years ago, we went to Wembley, and, we lost to QPR and all that, and that team was great, but season by season, we've just ebbed away from that. These players that we've had, that style of play went, and we've not replaced it with the right team, because the Championship clubs are playing, they are rubbish. The teams who are playing, they're beating us, like Birmingham. They're just in Sheffield Wednesday when we lost up there.
Nathan,
it's just big, powerful teams. Technically the footballers that we've got are good footballers. We don't have the right mix. They're all like 8-9 stone looking at them, dripping wet. You need a bit more power and strength in there. We need a few 6-footers with the more pragmatic approach. Gary Rowett plays pragmatic football. He plays down the channels. He's got big. That's why he goes and buys, and gets Mason Bennett. Someone who's big, powerful,
Nathan,
who'll run the channel for him.
So,
that's the kind of play he plays.
Nathan,
but we don't have this strategy with how we're going to play. What's our niche? How do we play football?
Well, there you go, Nathan. Let me stop you there, right there. I get the sense you could probably fill this hour on your own, and we wouldn't have to say a thing, which is mightily impressive. We have to move on because there are other callers, but just very quickly, have you maybe stumbled across the point in all of this? You said you don't blame Wayne Rooney. You say you don't really blame the players because they're better, but we're talking about a squad of players that have probably been put together by, the last 4 or 5 managers? There are players there from Nigel Clough to Gary Rowett to Frank Lampard to Philip Cocu to Wayne Rooney. Isn't this why Derby are where they are? And in that, when you sort of trace the line all the way back, would you say that actually it's the ownership of the club that have to take more responsibility for where the club are currently?
I will never criticise Mel Morris. I don't know if Mel Morris listens to this. I don't know if he could take it. But if he does, I thank you very much for coming in and spending how much money. The fact he's gone out and earned that much money to put it into our club, I appreciate every penny he's put in. Now, the mistakes have been made because he's human like everybody else, and he's made things up, decisions from the heart. But he puts in more a month than most of us will earn in a lifetime. So we would put that in perspective before we start ever slating Mel Morris. I appreciate what he's done. Yeah, it's who's making the decisions, the recruitment team, the strategic elements in the club that have gone wrong. I'm hoping. I'm sorry, I'm going to get off. I know. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologise.
I'm hoping Steve McClaren, who I've got a lot of respect for, is given the time to shape the club because he knows football. He knows. And long term, they've got that strategic vision, and I hope they keep Wayne Rooney, give him a chance because I think he can do a good job.
So you still keep.
Sorry, guys, I've gone on.
No, that's very good of you. Take a deep breath, have a large glass of water, and chill. But Nathan, thank you very much for kicking us off. That has set the tone very nicely indeed, because you've rattled through a lot of topics there, and I'm slightly surprised we've got 40 minutes left. Actually, Nathan, I thought we might only have a few moments left to discuss all of that. Lots to go at.
By the way, Chris, no wonder his boys go running on a Saturday. He says his boys went running when he started talking. No wonder they went running, bless them.
Oh, dear.
Made a lot of good points, though.
No, he did. And as I always say, this is very much your hour. This is we throw the floor open to you guys and off you go. And on that theme, we're going to go to Jerry, because actually Nathan, I think, started that answer by saying, I don't blame Wayne Rooney, but I think Jerry has a differing view. Jerry, good evening.
Jerry here. phoning from Dublin.
Hello.
I was on in November, a bit like Nathan around the time of Philip Cocu.
Yep.
I hesitate to be kind of negative, but I'm just trying to be objective. I agree with some of the tone of Nathan, but I'm more on the hymn sheet of Rob, who phoned in last Monday and Tuesday, and I think one of your callers on Saturday. Just before I come to my main point, just very briefly, with all that's going on social media at the moment and so on, just a bit of support to a guy called Jake Barker, a Derby fan on Twitter, who posted some stuff on Saturday, just criticising, I think, Wayne, and he got huge abuse, and I really think the Twitter and Facebook really just need to step up and cut out that old nonsense. We can have our own different views, and we can argue politely and all of that, and there's no place for any nastiness and so on. But anyway, to my main point, I think, bottom line, I think Rooney should step aside for the last two games, and I think Steve McLaren should take over. And then whatever happens in the close season, whatever league we're in, I think with Steve we might have a chance of staying up, whatever. And then in the close season, I think Mel Mars just has to, and the board of directors, get proper buyer in, because I think the current talk is not sustainable. But anyway, that's for another day. I think this season has been about two people, Christian Bielik and Wayne Rooney. Philip Cocu managed Derby for 12 league games at the start of the season. He didn't have Bielik for any of the games. He played Wayne Rooney in 10 of those games, and we won one game. That was the game at Norwich, where they missed a penalty, and Jason Knight stole a free kick on the edge of the box, and Wayne Rooney did what Wayne Rooney does and put it in the back of the net. That was great. Come the Barnsley game, we lose. Cocu walks. Some Derby fans are amazed that we should be losing to Barnsley, but they are a well-run team. They deserve their victory, and good luck to them in the playoffs. I hope they do well. We then move on for a couple of games where the three of them are in charge, and then Wayne Rooney is appointed. And after 2 or 3 games, Christian Bielik comes in, plays 13 games. We win 6 of them, we draw 4. We get 21 points out of 39. And then, unfortunately, he's injured, and Curtis Davis was also a big loss. And since then, we've played 18 games. I think we've won 4. And there's these players, they're half decent. Eric, picked a few names there: Marsh, Shinnie, Adin Clark, Kazim, in particular, and there's a few others who are half decent. Bielik brought out the best in those players around him. And since his absence, there's been nobody there and nobody on the sidelines trying to manage this team tactically. They're a half decent bunch of players. They should not be where they are if they were being coached properly.
So, Jerry, when
it would be mid-table or something.
Okay, so which Derby at one point were looking like they were heading for, to be honest, when they won 6 in 8. Granted, as you mentioned there, I think Bielik played in maybe 3 or 4 of those, got injured against Bristol City. I think Derby still won a couple of games after that, beat Wickham quite late on, and there was the home win over, I can't remember now off the top of my head, Huddersfield maybe.
Huddersfield.
It was Huddersfield. Yeah. And then they were 5 points off the top half. What was your opinion of Rooney then? We know football is very reactionary, and this is how it works. And if a manager wins 5 in a row, he's the best thing ever. And if he loses 5 in a row, it's let's get rid of him. And that's how it works. But what do you think has gone wrong for Wayne Rooney from that run in which Derby were, I think, second in the form table to now, where I think they're either bottom or second bottom of the form table?
Well, I think Eric touched on it on Saturday, but the Cardiff game, I think we were all amazed at the changes he made for the Cardiff game, trying to keep everyone for the Coventry game, and so that's sending mixed messages to players and staff. So you've got to put out the next game is the most important game, and whether that's Cardiff or Barrow in the cup, we maybe leave that aside. But the next league game is the most important game. They can't be looking over the horizon. And Cardiff they're decent under Mick, but they're beatable as well. So I think too many changes. And again, as I said, Eric has ticked a few names there. Shinnie to me has been outstanding. I know he gets some criticism. I don't know why. I think he has been outstanding, and he has come off a number of times. And what message does that send to him? That guy tracks back the touchline, putting in tackles and so on. For me, he'd be first on the team sheet. Clark is the same, and Buchanan, I think he's pretty decent. Put in a good cross on Saturday. So there's the makings of a half decent team. Certainly not.
Jerry, can I just come in there? Eric Steele,
Yes,
Jerry,
sir.
the point you're making, and the whole thing that you've repeated about 4 times now, which is correct. You keep talking about half decent. That's where we are now. These players can't sustain 90 minutes. We have not got the depth. We haven't got a 20-man squad. Never mind a 22, 24-man squad. Because you lose Davis, you lose Billick. We're putting kids. We're putting kids that should never be near that first team, because we're not being able to have a more experienced squad, because there was no recruitment last summer. We've not replaced the number 9. The number 9 is the biggest fault. Have a look at every team that's gone up against us and done well. Even Wickham, Ipexu, they've took 4. They could have potentially took the win off us. Have a look at every team. We have not replaced Chris Martin, the number 9 position. We had to wait till November to get a number 9 in Kazim. We had to wait till he got fit. So we start the season where we've got no focal point up front. And Philip Koku needs to play that way. So when he goes, we still haven't got a focal point. So your point is quite right. I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's a half decent. Half decent should still be good enough, and should have been good enough to keep us in this league. Yeah. But unfortunately, we have got a total lack of consistency.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The only thing I would just say about the number 9, and you're 100% right, 110% right. But if you, when we do get the ball up there, if you look at Brentford, they have 3, 4, 5 players scrambling into the box. We've won at most. You're not going to score. You could have Messi up there, but if the ball isn't getting to him, you're not going to shoot. You're not going to score.
Yeah, Jerry, I'd love that. Can we get Messi on loan just for 20 minutes on Saturday? That would do me.
Wouldn't need 20, just give him 5.
I'm hoping Brentford will take care of business tomorrow night, and then, we may have a chance, but the next 2 weeks, and that's why I'm saying I would hope that realistically Wayne would actually have a chat with Steve McLaren in the morning and saying, look, struggling a bit here, can you please help? What do you suggest? Eat a bit of humble pie. Nobody would begrudge that. But when you have somebody of that experience there, let's please use it.
Jerry, great call. Thank you very much for giving us a call.
Great
and next season, don't leave it so long between your calls. It's always great to chat. And have a good rest of the evening. 0800 145 6161 81333. I'll come to your messages in a moment, actually. Derby at the front of your message, and at BBC Derby Sport. We still have Nigel, John, David and Joe to speak to. Rianne says, I feel Saturday was a season-defining game. Really concerned that in his interview, Shinnie didn't know the changes that Birmingham made. Why is there no communication from the management to the players? The players' confidence is gone, and as soon as we concede, we are too slow to react to the changes. Lee says, the bottom line, the players are not good enough. How can people blame Rooney when he's never had 11 decent players to pick? It doesn't matter what manager comes in, this group is poor. Lampard was a new manager to the game, but he had better tools to work with, as in Mount, Tomori, Wilson and others. Richard says, whether we go down or not, 2 options for me. Get Frank back or keep Rooney to save the costs. Make Steve McLaren his number 2 and get rid of the rest of the backroom team. And Simon says, for me, Rooney showed his inexperience. Bowyer changed tactics and we didn't do anything, and then decided to bring on Roberts and Yuzviak on with 4 minutes to go. And why bring Bird on when we need a goal? Just quickly before we go to Joe, who is next up, McLaren and Rooney, may as well address it now. Eric, we got plenty of these calls on Saturday asking the same thing, wanting that swap to happen, wanting Steve McLaren to come down from his technical director's perch and either join Wayne Rooney, or some wanting him to replace Wayne Rooney. You know both pretty well, and Steve McLaren is one that does seem to be on the periphery in terms of his technical director role, and Wayne Rooney made that abundantly clear, not just to us, but in his written press conference as well, that has always been McLaren's role. He's a technical director, and that is it.
I thought some of the garbage that was wrote Saturday, that was some of the stories that came out. Some of the, obviously, I don't do social media, but ultimately, good friends of mine had informed me some of the stuff that was going around. Listen, this is not a time. Steve McLaren is there. Steve McLaren has been there, and I don't think his role's changed. I think he's still there, and he's like every day. He'll still be there for consultation, before training, after training. I don't think this is a time to change. I don't think it'll make any difference. If Wayne Rooney needs help, Steve McClaren will be there. Steve McClaren was at the game. He was supporting the team on Saturday. All we haven't seen is because of the change in the COVID rules. We used to see him closer to the dugout area, the technical area, where he would possibly send messages down. That stopped for some reason. But I'm sure Wayne will have. He's only got to just pick a phone up or just walk into an office and say, Steve, we're having some discussion about the team. What's the week? How we should build it up? What would you do? I think that'll happen. Wayne would be very foolish not to take on the experience. As to changing it, I don't think that would happen. I think Wayne will be in charge. Come the end, the next 2 games, whatever the results, totally different. Then that will be a different scenario, which we can talk about in 2 weeks' time. But I think at the moment, Wayne is still the head coach, and Steve McClaren is around to support him and the coaching team.
Okay, Joe is next up. Hello, Joe.
Evening, guys. How you doing?
Evening. Yeah, we're very good, thank you. What do you want to say?
I'd like to say I'm going to lighten the mood a bit, but unfortunately not. I think it's shameful that Derby County, after allowing teams being worse than us, to basically try and stay in the Championship. I think the club is an absolute. I think the club's an absolute joke at the moment. My barometer of any Derby County side being poor is in 2006. I went to Colchester in the FA Cup and we lost 3-1. That was under Phil Brown, and that was the worst Derby County side I've probably ever seen. That Derby County side would hammer this one. I'm not seeing any light at the end of the tunnel. I think if we stay up, and I'm 50-50 on it, if we were to go down, people who think we're going to come straight back up are deluded.
And when you... it is difficult to argue with those sentiments at the moment, Joe. It's safe to say Derby being where they are is testament to that. And you're right. We've long said on this programme, the list of teams that are in League One, that have stayed in League One, I think far outnumber the teams that have gone into League One and then come back up. The ones always spring to mind: Bournemouth, Wolves, Leicester, etc., Southampton. Yep. Sunderland, though, there, Portsmouth are there, and Wigan, who I know had administration issues, etc. So the big question: why? Why are Derby in this position? As a fan that has been following them through thick and thin, how have Derby ended up in this position?
Derby never got over the playoff final defeat against QPR, in my opinion. I think if we'd have gone up then, we'd have probably done okay in the Premiership. The club's never got over that, I don't think, personally. We've had a succession of managers in that spent an absolute fortune on dross. And I mean dross. In this league, you need warriors. Where's Derby's thug at centre-half that rallies the troops? Where's the Rob Highmarch type character? Where's the Matt Oakley type character in midfield that gets ball, wins ball, gives ball to somebody else? Where's the meat? I call him a meathead. Where's the meathead up front that will put players in the back of the net along with the ball? Now, yeah. I don't ask for a lot for Derby County, but I ask for players that are going to have a bit of pride and a bit of passion, and I'm seeing none of that. And I'm embarrassed at the minute to support Derby County. I've never been embarrassed in my life to support Derby.
And what doesn't help, Joe, is that you guys can't be there. The fans, the supporters, whatever age, whatever, they can't be there. And that might, the frustration, you're having to live all of these frustrations without actually being at the ground. Yeah,
I think the COVID thing hasn't helped at all. It really hasn't. And obviously there's no atmosphere in the ground. But, you know, I see a group of players there that are beaten before they go out. I just don't see anybody rallying the troops. And like I say, if Derby go down, they'll be down there for a number of seasons. If I was a 14 or 15-year-old kid, you know, like back in the day, in the 80s, I was going to different grounds and stuff. And I thought, you know, if I was a kid now and Derby went down, I think, great, I've got new grounds to go to. You know, we'll have a good laugh. But it's good to Fleetwood on a Tuesday night. Let's be honest.
And also throw in the financial repercussions at the moment. This season, of all seasons, is not the season to drop divisions. Absolutely not. A great point from Joe, I think, Eric. Again, we've discussed this, not for a while, actually, but as the spine of the team. And Derby, in previous seasons, whether you like them or loathe them, and we know that there was a split opinion, there was Richard Keogh, there was Tom Huddleston, there was Chris Martin. The spine of the team were these warriors. And again, whether you liked or loathed him, Richard Keogh, you knew he would sweat blood for the club. Now, we know what happened there, but it does seem that Joe's point is a salient one, that the spine of the team hasn't been replaced. And this Derby team, they do worry you because the fragility of the side is there. And it's seen whenever they suffer a setback. And Rooney's spoken about this before, saying it happens in football. Every game there's going to be a setback. It's how you react to those. Derby just don't react to them.
We've got players, but we haven't got characters. And the caller's made some very, very good points, because every player he's mentioned would be in the spine of a team. Oakley in midfield, Rob Hindmarsh at the back. I mean, my two penalties, what I cannot understand is in the last 5-6 games, things go wrong. There's nothing. There's nobody on that field has a go. If I hadn't come for a cross, Rob Hindmarsh, Ross McLaren would have turned around and boy, they would have given me such a talking to. I don't see any of that. The modern day players, Wayne's mentioned it, you've got to be so careful how you deal with them, how you speak to them. And we have not got enough characters within that team. That's why we are where we are. We've got no consistency in approach and no consistency in level of ability at times. And that's why we are where we are. You miss the key players through the middle of that team. You look at just what they had. They had basic centre-halves on Saturday, but they did a job. Dean and Roberts, we got a soft belly in there. Clark, Wisdom, we've had that many different. That tells you how many different centre-halves have we had, but then how many different midfield players have we had? How many systems have we had where we've played wing-backs, we've played wingers? And every time we come back to it, the reason the change is being made is you hope as a coach and a manager that you can make changes that might improve the team or improve the performance. So we can't forget that Wayne got 6 wins out of 8-9 initially, but they can't sustain it. And when you lose key players, Bielik lost, massive loss. But we didn't replace him in January window. We brought a young kid in called Van Ingemi. We lose Bielik. We didn't go out and get somebody who could be a playmaker. And then we have got the problem then because you've waited for Kazim to get fit. But Kazim just scored now, 8 goals? We are where we are. We've got the lowest goal scorers in the whole league. That's why we are where we are. So that all these problems have come to all. And I think the caller's got a great point. You just haven't got the characters. He's mentioned, crikey me, when we went to Wembley against QPR, look at that. You look at the whole midfield. We had a choice. Do we play Bryson? Do we play Henrik? Do we play Hughes? Look at the team that we had. And I just look and say, we haven't got. How many players from this team would people come and say, I'm going to grab them? Derby go down or they stay up. Let's go and buy him or him. You'd be struggling at the moment. And that has been, for me, the biggest problem, just the lack of consistency, the lack of quality.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, half of me suspects that when all is said and done, if there was to be a Venn diagram of Derby over the last 10 years, the answer would always be not beating QPR at the Wembley playoff final. It just seems to be that was the... if that had been different, it could have been oh so different. I know that's football, I guess.
Yeah, I generally feel. I mean, I think when we had Frank came in, did a great job. I think we got lucky. That was kind of a once in a lifetime thing with Lampard coming in. We've got Wayne Rooney, who's probably one of England's greatest ever players. Will he be the man if we go down to take us back up? I don't believe so. No, he's inherited a load of rubbish, to be fair. But some of his loan signings, I have to question. So I pray to God we stay up, because the repercussions of going down would be tragic. But, the fans will still be there. They'll still back the lads.
That's the one. That's what I wanted to hear. Keep the faith. That's the one.
Yeah, well, Derby for life, not glory.
Well, I like that.
And the post-mortem will absolutely come at some point. And yeah, with 2 weeks of the season, just it's under 2 weeks of the season to go. Yeah, the mood of that post-mortem will be very much defined by what happens that final day against Sheffield Wednesday. And ludicrously, it could be done on the final day of the season. If Rotherham lose to Brentford, and then lose on Saturday as well at home to Blackburn, and Derby take care of business against Swansea, and also Sheffield Wednesday lose. Well, they've got Nottingham Forest, which is the early game now. It's going to be a proper roller coaster on Saturday. Joe, fantastic call. Thank you very much for it, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Guys. Thank you. Cheers.
Great stuff. 0800 145 6161. Going to John next. Rob says Rooney has had 30-plus games. 29.4% win rate is unacceptable for this club, but the fault lies ultimately with the man who hired him. If I had a leak in my toilet and hired an electrician to fix it, it would be my fault if it still doesn't work. Jeff need to go into the last 2 games not with the weight of the world on their shoulders, but in a mindset which will allow them to perform in as relaxed way as possible. All this blame game is counterproductive at the moment. The squad isn't good enough, says Mark, and it isn't Rooney's. He's battling to keep League One players in the Championship. If he manages that, then he deserves the freedom of Derby and not the abuse he is currently getting. And Dom says, can we just clarify, Bielik was available for Koku for the last few games. He either chose not to play him or played him at centre-back. Yeah, that was very strange. I don't think Bielik was fit, was he, when he came back first time around?
He played centre-half and he struggled.
He didn't look fit, and absolutely.
No.
And then
I can remember after 10 minutes, somebody put a ball down the side of him, and the striker was 2 yards off him. And he turned and he couldn't get anywhere near. And I was like, oh, my word. He just wasn't match fit then, not to play there anyway, centre-half. But the thing about Bielik was he got fit playing. And he got better and better and better. Every game he played, he was getting stronger. And you will miss somebody because he was the only one that we had. Nobody since Wayne Rooney's come out of that team in Bielik has been able to play short and long, switch play. Bielik had all of that. He could bring the ball out, and that you've missed a massive, massive player there, which is why I just couldn't quite understand why we didn't try and get a Hourahan or somebody like that. Swansea went and got somebody in midfield experience. We didn't do that. We went and got a young kid it's not fair to the young kid to come in. We knew Bielik was out. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he has a major influence, and we hope he does get fit, because to get him back would be a major plus to start the season next year.
John in Swadling Coat is next up. Hello, John.
Evening, gents. How are you?
Evening. Yeah, very good, thank you. What's on your mind?
I'm just harking back to the days when we sacked the manager when we were fourth from top.
Those halcyon days, yeah.
Oh, those halcyon days have not been in the top two, but fourth from top with an exceptionally strong squad when Paul Clement was in charge. And it just seems to myself, apart from the QPR playoff, that things went sort of downhill from there. When you've got people like, Forsyth, Keogh in the team, Shotton, etc. And as Eric mentioned, the midfield of Bryson, Hendrick Hughes, we had Tom Ince knocking around, Jess Lingard, George Thorne, who we seem to have replaced with sort of Bielik with his injury rates and the position he plays in. And up front, Johnny Russell, Martin, etc. It's like, how many of the team nowadays would get into that team? The team's been decimated.
Yeah, the squad. I mean, that day still, I look back, you look at now where the players have all gone, what they've done. It's you can then look back. It's easy now, isn't it? But look at the managerial changes, 6-7 managers, money spent, players released. It has been a frightening turnaround in 5-6 years. But in the end, ultimately, we've got to find a way. We've got to find a way for 2 games and find a way back to get, back up that league where we should be, where we want to be.
Fair enough, we need some stability, but young managers, they're seeing us basically as a stepping stone club. That's what Lampard has done. That's what Rooney will do as well, I'm sure of it. I mean, Rooney, you can't take it face value anyway, because what's he done when he's come here? He's been a player and he said, not interested in managing. He's been like the sort of Boris Johnson of Derby County with Theresa May, and so, with Cocu playing Theresa May, and it's like, as soon as he gets a chance, he's in there and he's took over. And he's just not up to it.
So when Wayne Rooney got the job, you weren't best pleased?
No, I honestly wasn't. No, I simply thought he hasn't got the experience. And I appreciate he's an exceptional player. You think about this, though, everything to Rooney comes naturally, doesn't it? Being good at something, I used to be a teacher sort of back in the day, and I was better at teaching stuff that I didn't know in a way that much about, because I had to think and know how to teach it. Rooney's an exceptionally good player, or he was back in the day. If something comes naturally to him, can he get that message across? Or is he looking at these players and going, why can't you do what I do? Well, sort of Lampard's a different case in the fact that he had an exceptionally good work ethic and he'd be there training. Everybody knows he seemed to be like first in and last out to training. But I don't see it with Rooney.
So, well, yeah, the Frank Lampard comparison is one that is made, but you do wonder what Rooney would have done with a Mount, a Wilson and a Tomori, 3 players that undoubtedly change the makeup of any team in the Championship. So if Rooney is the problem for you then, John, are you suggesting that you think the squad of players currently that Wayne Rooney has is far better than their position suggests?
I wouldn't say far better, no, but I'd say it is better. The thing is, we're getting young managers in. You tell me where a young manager has gone in somewhere and stayed at that club for about 3 or 4 years, which is what we need. And they don't. We need an experienced manager that knows the job and thinks, I'll give this team 3 or 4 years and I'll actually spend it. I won't get stolen, by Newcastle United or something like this. Effectively, we need a steady Eddie to do the job. I mean, there's all, the sort of Warnock types and things like that. I hate to sort of bring his name up, but hey, sort of Middlesbrough did do us a favour.
He did a favour, absolutely, yeah.
So you need something like that, but I don't think Mel Morris likes it. I mean, why did he sack somebody when we were fourth? And then I think if he has a manager that stands up to him. Of course, there was all this talk about Mel Morris getting involved in the team selection or something like that when Clement there or coming in at half time. It's like, it's not your job. Why are you buying a dog and barking yourself? He shouldn't be doing it. He actually needs a manager, like I say, somebody will be there for 4 years and that will say to Mel, you actually own this, but you don't know as much about football as I do, and what you need to do is shut up.
And this, again, boils down, I think, Eric, to the point that you look at some of the more successful sides, especially ones that are in the Championship and go to the Premier League, there is a plan there, isn't there? There is a 3 or 4 year plan. Barnsley are the great example this year. I mean, I know they've been yo-yoing about, but they have a system in place and they recruit head coaches and managers that fits the system that they have. Watford have done the same. I mean, Watford are completely the other way. That they almost take the Chelsea model of, hire fire. But it does seem to work for them. And yet another manager comes in and wins promotion. Well, yeah,
Watford have had six managers in two and a half years.
It's remarkable, isn't it? But they seem to have a system in place in the Potsy family that, right, that's the way we're going to go and that's where we're going to do it. Brentford, obviously, is the model everyone speaks about. They've got something in place there that Matty Benham has. We know the recruitment policy is much lauded. You can't say the same for Derby. Just look at the managers they've gone from experience to, they went with the wise and old authoritarian in Pearson, back to McLaren, to Rowett, to Lampard, to Cocu, to Rooney. There's no semblance of right, this is our 4-year plan and this is what we're going to do. And even if we have hitches, i.e. a manager might leave or whatever, we're still going to go with that plan and recruit the way that we think that the club should be going in.
Unfortunately, and the caller's made some very good points, unfortunately in football nowadays, stability, you do not get a chance. You don't get a chance to stabilise and then build. And at the end, you look at it, the average tenure now in the Championship, I think it's about 13 months. You can't build that. The gentleman would talk about being teaching. You'll have a programme, you'll actually have a plan and say, right, within 6 months we'll get to that, within a year we'll get to that, then there's a new group. Football doesn't do that, and we're the same in terms of the amount of managers that we've had. I mean, at the end of it, we don't really give people that long, and he's mentioned about Clement, but ultimately you have to turn around and say, well, have we given, and this is for end of the season, have we given the managers in the last 4 or 5 years enough time, or has it been a knee-jerk reaction? Obviously, the fact that we've had too many and too many changes points us to where we are now.
John's gone.
He's gone.
He's gone. He literally that second hung up, Eric. I don't think he hung up in anger at what you said. I just think he's lost connection. But it was a great call, and thank you very much indeed. And I have absolutely no doubt that when this is all said and done, whatever happens in the next couple of weeks, when the takeover is sorted, I am sure that Mel will talk, and he will speak about all of these things, as he has done previously, and we will find out all the answers there. And I also understand that people want this today. They want it yesterday. They want it 2 months ago. They want it tomorrow. I get all of that. He's keeping his counsel for now, but I have no doubt that when all is said and done, he will talk about his tenure at Derby County. And as our first caller Nathan pointed out, and others disagree, it's a split opinion. Eric, as always is with owners. It always is. Those that say, well, look at the state Derby are in now, and as Nathan points out, those that say, well, he ploughed so much money into it, I don't blame him for where they are, because this is the life of a football owner. He gambles, and that debate will run and run and run.
Without a doubt. And that won't change. You look at what happened last week with the ESL, where owners now are being totally challenged. First time ever you've seen real. But ultimately, you see who are still in charge of them clubs at the start of next season. The money men run the game. Money men run the game. I'm not saying that Mel drops into that, but I think when you have people in charge, you've got to make sure that your structure within your club is right as well. And I think that's something that a lot of clubs are looking at now. And listen, you've got to thank, in the end, Mel. Mel's put his own money in. He's given as much time, effort as he can. And he's been wrestling with this for over a year now. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he would have wanted it resolved in order to give the club stability with the BZI, then then there's all sorts of different consortiums being talked about now. Why is it? It seems to be Derby for the whole of this season. You've had to spend as much time talking football as talking about takeovers, potential buyouts. And in the end, it has. It's really dragged on, and it hasn't helped. I don't think it's helped anybody. It hasn't helped Mel in terms of his health. It hasn't helped the club to get some stability. And that stability off certainly hasn't helped the stability on.
Nigel is next up. Nigel, we've kept you waiting a long time. Apologies, and thank you for being patient. Hello.
No worries. How you doing? You both okay?
Yeah, very well.
Yes,
thank
Nige.
you. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Basically, it's something that yourself and Rob, the caller a couple of calls ago, touched on in terms of the relegation, if it was to happen. Things change quickly in football. 2 years ago, when we lost to Villa in the playoff final, I don't think anyone could have foreseen what the state we were going to be in now, both on and off the field. And in terms of the takeover situation, that's all a bit of an unknown at the minute. I mean, everything that people are reading, one day it's the best thing that's going to happen to the club in the last 10 years. And the next column you read, it's the worst thing. So it's all a bit of an unknown. I personally think, and I know nothing's guaranteed in football, but Derby need to rebuild no matter what next year. That's pretty obvious. They probably need 7 to 8 players to be competitive in the Championship, at least. If Derby were to go down and the takeover was to go through and everything will be sunshine and rainbows, I don't think it would be the worst thing to happen. We've seen teams do it in the past, like you touched on, your Leicesters, your Norwiches and the Southamptons that have come back up. You have a bit of a bounce. You can at least consolidate in the Championship and then perhaps go again, or best case scenario, go straight the way through. The only issue is, as we all know, we support Derby, so we'd probably end up being a Bolton or a Southampton. But that's my take on it. I don't think it. If this is obviously with the takeover being, hopefully, as we all hope, the best thing to happen. I just think season in League One with that, I think it could be a blessing in disguise.
Eric, very quickly, listen, it's a perfectly valid argument because the clubs that have done it. It is just, Eric, it feels, as we've mentioned, financially this season, it's the worst time to go down because clubs haven't had any gate receipts for the last year and a half. And a rebuild always feels more palatable, obviously, in a higher league. Although I do understand, I, way back when, covered Wolves in their season under Kenny Jackett when they went through League One, and they were fabulous in League One. They got 100 and something points, and they were brilliant. And they nearly qualified for the playoffs the season after in the Championship. But as Nigel says, that for every Wolves, there is a Portsmouth or a Sunderland. And it does feel that if that is to happen for Derby, there needs to be far more stability off the field for that to happen.
Yeah, I think he's made some good points, and I think the stability is vital. The next, whoever comes in next, has to set a structure in place to say whether we're in the Championship or in Division 1, this is the way this club is going to be run, and we're going to stay with it. There's going to be a consistency in policy off the field. And if it's a technical director and Steve McLaren, then above him we have a head of football, we have a head of commercial. We go through it and the structure's right. But the biggest point, which the call has made, is whether we're in the Championship or League One, we really do need to revamp this squad. Yeah. This squad of players is nowhere near good enough. We are going to need 8-9 changes in this squad because of the contracts we know they're up. Whether we're Championship or there, we have to change this squad. We could not go into battle with this squad again next year. As
is proven, it's a seminal moment, you feel. Nigel, thank you very much for your call. Sorry for keeping it brief. I just want to squeeze in a few more before we leave you at 7. David is up next. Hello, David.
Good evening.
Good evening. What's on your mind?
I'm just thinking of what you said earlier. There's a lot of big ifs there, Chris. If this, if that, if Derby beats Swansea, but no. My point is, on this programme a few weeks ago, I made the point about the stability, particularly in the squad. And I know that Eric disagreed with me at the time, but all those good results came in December and January, before we made all those signings in the transfer at the end of January in the transfer window. Now, we got all those results with a settled squad using under 23 players. And it was all disrupted when those new players came in. We had 6 loanees and 5 places on the pitch. And he's jugged them all about to the effect that it's done no good at all, trying to accommodate all of them on the pitch. And I listened on Saturday, and somebody made a contribution on Saturday after the game and put his finger on it, really. Rooney's actually messed around with the team selection, playing players out of position, playing the wrong tactics, the wrong formation, and players are confused as to where they're playing and what their role should be within the team. And I think that guy hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. Okay. So, David, firstly, when did you think the squad needed strengthening in January?
I do think it needed strengthening, but with hindsight, of course, which is a great thing, the results we were getting before those players came in, as it's already been mentioned tonight, we had the second best form figures in the division. That was with the team we had before those new players came in. So really, the signings have not been good enough, and it's unsettled a consistent side.
Eric?
Well, all I would say is that when the group of players come in, they didn't affect the team straight away because none of them were involved other than on the subs bench. What we stopped doing was scoring goals. We stopped getting then 1-2 goals, which we were getting in January, February. Ultimately, when they came in, I agree. But unfortunately, do you not feel for Wayne Rooney? He had no money to go and buy players, to go and say, right, we need to go and get more experienced players. We had to wait because there was all talk of the takeover, this, that, and the other. He actually didn't do the signings till nearly the 4th week of January.
Well, it's deadline day, Eric. They all came in on a frantic deadline day, and
which just showed the desperation in the end. We've got 2 kids in that, in fairness to Mengi and Bangingby, that is not a time to bring them. We've got enough young kids within it. The caller's right. We had more experienced players then. We had Tom Lawrence out. I know we had Waghorn out as well for a spell of that. We lost some of the experienced players with injuries as well. But ultimately, you should be able to then still step up and say, have we got the players within the squad to step in? Yeah. And that's where we've lacked. Birmingham showed us up totally when they made them 3 changes on Saturday, and we had no answer to that because we had no bench. And that's been the problem. We've had no depth in the squad for the whole year.
David, thank you very much. I want to squeeze a couple more in before we leave you at 7, starting with Rob in Belper. Hello, Rob. Hello, Rob. Hello. Can you hear us? Hello.
Hello, it's just a quickie, really. I was a bit frustrated with people judging Rooney's job until the end of the season. I thought he was brought in with the remit to keep us up. We've got a fairly poor squad, especially without Bielik. And so far, albeit he's looking sort of by the skin of his teeth, it does look like he is going to keep us up at this point.
Well, the remit was to stay in the league, no question. Go on, Eric.
Yeah, I like that sentiment, Rob. No, I like the fact that you're saying, we've got a chance of staying up. How on earth we are still in with a chance? But you're right. I think we've got to back the players, back the manager, and everybody at the club that hopefully we can turn this around in the next 2 weeks. But then we start looking.
Yeah, well, true, which flies in the face of what I'm about to say, Eric, but I get your sentiment. But 1 win in 13, though, Rob, are you still convinced that Rooney is going to keep that, fulfil his remit?
No, not at all. But we've got to wait until he fails before we start hammering him. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's his first managerial job. We were bottom of the league when he took over. His job was to keep us in the league. So let's wait until he doesn't before we start hammering him for it. I think overall, given the circumstances, he's improved the team. Has he improved it as much as what we'd like? No, we've been dross for quite a while, if not all this season. But he has improved the team. The league position would tell you that. And we've competed in games which we weren't competing in previously. So he has improved us. He's not improved us as much as what I would have liked to have seen, or a lot of the fans. And we may still well go down. And if he does, I think he will go anyway. But if not, I'd like to see him with a transfer budget to bring in his own players, because so far he's only had loan players in a sort of scrambled last-minute effort on deadline day. It'd be interesting to see what he could actually do with money, albeit that would be a gamble.
Well, we shall see. There'll be many that agree with you and many that don't. That's exactly the way football works. Rob, thank you very much for ending. Gareth, I'm so sorry we haven't had time to come to you, but we'll try and get you on next week, I promise. No, it won't be next week. It's bank holiday next week, isn't it? The week after that. There's a thought. The one talking to go. And I wonder what we'll be talking about. Eric, as always, thank you very much indeed for your contributions, and we'll speak on Saturday, which feels ages away. I wish it was tomorrow, but we'll speak on Saturday.
No problem. Thank you, Chris.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.